Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cosmoscube. In today's episode, we are going to discuss about the events that will be happening in the month of March in the third week. In this week, we have only two astronomical events that will be happening in the night sky, and we have many birthdays in this week, many birthdays of very famous astronauts who have successfully contributed in various space missions. Let us move ahead and get to know about what all space events are there in this week. So the events that I am gonna be mentioning is from the dates March 14 to March 20. So I hope you all are excited to know about all the astronauts who have contributed greatly in space missions and who are born in this week of March, as well as there is an important day which is celebrated worldwide, which I will disclose in a bit. So let's gear up and start the podcast here. Starting from March 14, we have the peak of the Gamma Normed meteor shower. So after that series of planetary conjunction happening over the past weeks, we have a different opportunity in this week. It is the first chance to run and also you have witnessed the first chance to run the Messier marathons in 2022 in the past week. The mid of the March welcomes a different kind of astronomical experience for all of us. This week has brought to us the Gamma Normed meteor shower on the March 14th. This southern hemisphere meteor shower runs from February 25th through the March 28th. But astronomers are predicting that the night of the greatest activity of this particular event will occur on the 14th of March. On this night, you can also expect to see up to 6 meteors per hour. That is a lot. So while the Gamma Normeds aren't one of the major meteor showers in the year, viewers in the southern hemisphere can enjoy trying to spot meteors as they radiate from the constellation of the Norma. So people who are living in the southern hemisphere are very lucky because they can actually witness all of these meteors, and actually 6 meteors per hour. Who all are living in the southern hemisphere are very lucky to get this opportunity and just grab this opportunity and make each and every observation. So now let us talk about the rocket launch which will be happening on March 14th. So the rocket 3.3 will be launched by the Astra Space Company from the Pacific Spaceport Complex, which is present in Alaska. It was formerly known as the Kodiak Complex, which is the KLC, the Kodiak Launch Complex, and this company is owned by the Alaskan Aerospace Corporation. So the rocket 3.3 will be launched to the lower Earth orbit for the technology demonstration of the new prototypes that the company has developed, the company of Astra has developed. Astra is an aerospace company which is a private company and is present in the States of America. So another important day for all the mathematicians over there, it is the Pi Day on March 14th. Pi Day is celebrated on March 14th around the world. It is a symbol that is used in mathematics to represent a constant, and it is a ratio of circumference of a circle to its diameter, which is approximately said to be 3.14159, and the value after the decimal point goes on till infinity. So Pi Day is an annual opportunity for all the mathematicians and mathematics enthusiasts to recite the infinite digits of pi. The value of pi has been calculated to over 50 trillion digits beyond its decimal point. It continues without any repetition or a pattern. So this is certainly a unique constant. So all the mathematician enthusiasts over there, so you can just have an opportunity to again go through the infinite series of pi and recite through all the series that you have gathered over the years. Coming back to another event, we have the birthday of astronauts. So in this month we have the birthdays of two famous astronauts who have contributed widely in the space field. So first we are going to talk about astronaut Eugene Cernan. Astronaut Eugene Cernan was an American astronaut, naval aviator, electric and aeronautical engineer, and a fighter pilot as well. Those are a lot of degrees to be earned. So Cernan during Apollo 17 mission became the 11th man to walk on the moon. And also he traveled to the space 3 times and to the moon twice as a pilot of Gemini 9A in June 1996 and as a lunar module pilot of Apollo 10 in May 1969. He also traveled as a commander of Apollo 17 in the year 1972 of the month December. So he has totally traveled 3 times in space, and you can say that he was a pilot, he was a lunar module pilot and also a commander. So he is a greatly qualified person, and also other than that he was electrical as well as aeronautical engineer and a naval aviator and a fighter pilot as well. So you can see how much qualities he has, and he is so skilled. So we should always remember such astronauts who inspire us to learn about different fields and have experience and skill which relate to all the aspects of life. So next we have the birthday of Frank Borman astronaut. So Frank Borman was born on 14th of March 1928. He is a retired USAF colonel and an aeronautical engineer as well as a test pilot, businessman, rancher and a NASA astronaut. So you can see that Frank was also a great skilled astronaut. He was the commander of Apollo 8, which was the first mission to fly around the moon, and he was also awarded the Congressional Special Space Medal of Honor for this. From years and years, all the astronauts have contributed so much in this industry, and by each of these missions we get something to learn. All the data that is captured gives us so much knowledge to go and explore beyond our minds ever thought of. So each and every person who has contributed towards the field has to get equal respect, and we should also celebrate these days with them. So when we recollect about the space events or the astronomical events, we also should recollect the historical figures who contributed in these fields, because they are equal, they should be equally remembered and paid respect towards. These are all the events that will be happening on the 14th of March. So moving on, the next day we have the birthday of another important astronaut who is Alan Bean. He was born on 15th of March 1932 and was an American naval officer and an aviator. He was also an aeronautical engineer, a test pilot, a NASA astronaut and a painter. He was the 4th person to walk on the moon, and he made the first flight to space aboard of Apollo 2 mission and the second crewed mission to land on the moon in 1969. He also made his second and final flight into the space on the Skylab 3 mission in the year 1973. So after he got retired from the US Navy as well as the NASA astronaut position, he was keenly interested and he drove towards painting. He pursued his interest, which was painting, and he depicted some of the very beautiful arts which were related to the space scenes, and he also demonstrated his experience of space and how he experienced space during his different missions, his 2 missions. This gives a pictorial view of how the experience of Alan Bean astronaut was when he traveled to space. You can clearly see how enthusiastic Alan Bean was, because even after getting retired, he didn't rest for a time also. He pursued his interest, he depicted so many arts and his experiences, and he demonstrated all of them. So we can clearly see how enthusiastic our astronauts are. Not only enthusiasm, they also have studied so much, they have pursued all their interest in various fields, and mainly like everyone is an engineer, a test pilot, an aviator and a painter. I don't know how many more skills we have to get by an astronaut. Like an astronaut is like overall thing in one person. So let us move on to the 17th of March. 17th of March also has the birthday of 2 important astronauts. So let us start with my favorite and who is my inspiration for all time. She is Kalpana Chawla. So Kalpana Chawla was born on 17th of March in the year 1962. She was born in Karnal, Haryana, which is located in India. She was an astronaut, an aeronautical engineer and an aerospace engineer by profession. Kalpana was the first woman of Indian descent to go to space. She first flew on the Space Shuttle Columbia in the year 1997 as a mission specialist and a primary robotic arm operator. Also in the year 2003, Chawla was the one of the 7 crew members who died in the Space Shuttle Columbia disaster when the spacecraft disintegrated during its re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. On this day, the whole nation was shaken because India had its first female astronaut into space, and during the re-entry the mission failed, and that was why there was a deep sense of sadness which was spread over the nation and also in America, because it was not a loss of a single astronaut, it was a loss of all the 7 skilled astronauts. So moving ahead, Kalpana was posthumously awarded the Congressional Space Medal Award of Honor, and several streets, universities and institutions have been named in her honor. Even in India as well as in the abroad in America, we find so many institutions and colleges which are named on her name. Also, there is an asteroid which has been named as Kalpana. So the late astronaut is recognized as a national hero in India. She is an inspiration to millions of girls in the India. Not only girls but also boys. She was an inspiration to all the children who are poor but want to be successful and want to put their dreams together and reach their goal. She is an inspiration to whole nation. She was in space for 336 hours during her research mission. So I am thinking to put up a full podcast on the life of Kalpana because she is very close to my heart, and she is the one who has inspired me throughout all my childhood and even now. Faith and the courage she has shown, the perseverance she has maintained throughout her life is just incredible. It is worth to put someone's history like hers to other people so that other people can know more about her and remember her during this day, and also remember her contributions in this field. So the next astronaut which we have is Ken Mattingly. Thomas Kenneth Mattingly was born on 17th of March in the year 1936. He is a former American naval officer and an aviator, as well as aeronautical engineer, test pilot and rear admiral in the United States Navy, and an astronaut who flew on the Apollo 16, STS-4 and STS-51C missions. Mattingly has been scheduled to also fly on Apollo 13, but just 3 days before the launch he was held back and removed from the mission due to the exposure to German missiles. He didn't lose hope. He got recovered and he later flew as a command module pilot for the Apollo 16 missions, and he also made 64 lunar orbits, which made him one of the 24 people to have flown to the moon. Mattingly and his commander from Apollo 16, John Young, are the only people that have flown to the moon and also a space shuttle orbital mission. Also, during the Apollo 16's return flight to Earth, Mattingly performed an extravehicular activity to retrieve film cassettes from the exterior of spacecraft and the command and service module. This was the second deep space extravehicular activity in the history, at great distance from any planetary body. As of 2019, it remains only one of 3 such EVAs which have taken place all during the history and all during Apollo program's J missions. So by listening to all these contributions that the astronauts have made, we understand one thing, that each astronaut has a specific importance, has done an incredible thing which has to be remembered throughout the history. Actually, being frank, I didn't know about these many astronauts as well. When I researched about them, I found out that each astronaut is of worth equal importance because each one gives us inspiration to do better and better in our own field and to not lose hope for anything. The perseverance that the astronauts have showed throughout their missions, like this astronaut also had a disease which he cured and he came back with more strength and he has conquered the EVAs. what more can you expect of a life? A life is all of just dreams to be achieved. So we should not just give up on anything. We must face all the obstacles. We should be ready to face everything in our life, and we should come up with flying colors. That's what each astronaut teaches us, gives inspiration to do more and more and to have that perseverance throughout the life. So, we also have another astronaut, James Irwin. James Benson, which is also called as Jim Irwin, was born on March 17 in the year 1930. He was an American astronaut, aeronautical engineer, test pilot, and USAF pilot. He also served as Apollo lunar module pilot for Apollo 15, the fourth human lunar landing. He was the 8th person to walk on the moon and the first and youngest of those astronauts to die. So, coming on the next day, we have a rocket launched by Roscosmos. It is the Soyuz 2.1A, which is a modernized version of the Soviet Soyuz rocket. In its basic form, it is a 3-stage launch vehicle which is for placing the payloads into the lower Earth orbit. And compared to the previous versions of the Soyuz rocket, the first stage boosters and the 2 core stage features are operated engines. So this rocket will have the Soyuz MS-21, which is the Russian Soyuz space flight to the International Space Station. It has a crew of 3 planned for the launch from the Baikonur on 18th of March 2022, and this launch was previously planned on 30th March, but there was some changes and it got preponed to 18th of March 2022. So this launch will be happening by the Roscosmos organization at the Baikonur site 31/6, and this will be launched in the lower Earth orbit to the International Space Station. So for this mission, astronaut Thomas Mashburn will be taking over as the ISS Space Commander. We also have a birthday on 18th of March, the birthday of astronaut James F. Reilly, who was born in the year 1954. He was an American geologist and a former NASA astronaut. James flew on 3 space shuttle missions, STS-89, STS-104 and the STS-117. Reilly is a current director of United States Geological Survey. Coming to the next day, 19th of March, we have the Falcon 9 Block 5 launched by SpaceX, which is the Falcon 9 Block 5 is partially reusable 2-stage 2-orbit medium lift launch vehicle, which is designed and manufactured in the United States by SpaceX. So this will be a Starlink of 48 satellites and it will be used for the communications. So in the previous 2 weeks too, we had a Starlink network which was sent into the lower Earth orbit for internet establishment to get connections and communications throughout the world. So this is also a communication satellite which will rely and amplify radio telecommunication and the signals via a transponder, and it will create a communication channel between a source transmitter and a receiver at different locations on the Earth. So these communication satellites are basically used for our day-to-day uses like the internet, the television, etc. So this Starlink group will also be launched in the lower Earth orbit, and it will be launched from the Cape Carnival SLC-40 site. So now let us talk about another astronomical event which is an important event in this month. So this event will be happening on the 20th of March 2022, which is called as the March equinox. So the March equinox on the March 20th is not a night of sky event, but it's worth nothing on your calendar because it's the mark of a changing of seasons. It is the northern hemisphere and the winter will officially end during this day and the spring will begin. So it is like a seasonal change or a climatic change, you can say. So in the southern hemisphere, the summer will end and the autumn will begin, and also the people who have marked this date throughout the history and continue to do so across the globe with all kinds of celebrations and events. Because from this day the actual changes in season starts, and the winters will be finally over, and the summers and the spring will start. So looking from a celestial perspective, the March equinox marks a point on the Earth's annual orbit when everywhere on Earth has almost exactly 12 hours of day and night. The equinox, which means an equal night. So this makes a perfect sense. It is a perfect balance between a day and a night because of the distance and angles between the Earth, which will be like 23.5 degree of tilt. So this will give us a half and half, 12 hours of day and 12 hours of night. Some archaeoastronomers also have studied sites around the world which seem to be built like to mark these equinoxes. Like you can say some of the historical structures that have been made which represent the March equinox and the change of the seasons. So one example that I can give is the Chichen Itza, which is in Mexico. So on the equinoxes, a shadow will appear on the main pyramid. So which is this pyramid is specifically dedicated to the deity Kukulkan, which shows a snake sliding down the staircase. And it is believed that the pyramid was built specifically so this phenomenon would occur. And as a feathered serpent, Kukulkan joins the heavens, earth and the underworld, day and night in Maya beliefs. So there are some historical structures which have been constructed in such a way that they depict certain event that will be happening every year. So there are many such structures which have been constructed around the world. Even in India, you can find so many structures which are formed we can say the clock, the sundial, which is present in the Jantar Mantar. So all these structures which have been made depict a significance of a particular day that happens in the history. So we can just say that our ancestors were really great. They had no knowledge of this modern day science and all. They were far more better than all of us because they knew each and every knowledge about this. So all these things just tell us that people were already very advanced at that time. Science and the modern science which we are learning now, which we are researching now, have already been discovered in those days. So it is just an incredible thought to have, right? So these were all the events and the astronomical events, and of course a lot of birthdays of our astronauts, inspiring astronauts, and also there were many launches that will be happening in this week. So I hope you all have enjoyed listening to this podcast and have got some information related to astronomy and space which will be happening in this week. So I hope you will all witness the 2 astronomical events that will be happening in this week, and also you can cover up all the launches in your YouTube live stream, or you can just go on to their website and you can have a live stream of the rocket launches. And also please remember about the astronauts who have contributed, who have birthdays in this week, and you can just Google about them and just read about what all contributions they have made in each specific missions to learn about them in detail. So with this note, let me end the podcast here. I hope you all keep exploring like this, and goodbye.